Hey there, and welcome to Juicy Celeb Talks. Rumor has it that Barry White tried to warn Luther Vandross about Clive Davis. Barry and Luther were both significant figures in the music industry. Barry had heard some unsettling things about Clive Davis and felt Luther should know. The word on the street was that Clive Davis had a secret: he was particularly interested in men. Barry White, looking out for his friend, wanted to ensure Luther knew what he was getting into by working with Clive. Barry tried to caution Luther about Clive's secret desires. This warning was intended to protect Luther, but what happened next is where it gets interesting. Did Luther heed Barry's warning, or did he choose to ignore it? Let's delve deeper into the story. Barry White was a major name in music, known for his deep voice and romantic melodies. Born in 1944, Barry started his career in the 1960s, and by the 1970s, he had become a huge star. People loved his music, and his songs were always on the radio. Some of his most famous songs are Can't Get Enough of Your Love, Babe, and You're the First, the Last, My Everything. Barry White didn't just sing, he also wrote and produced music. He won many awards, including the Grammy Awards, and sold over 100 million records worldwide. That's a lot of people buying his music. Barry had a unique way of creating songs that people fell in love with. His music was smooth and romantic, perfect for a date night. But what many people might not know is that Barry White was one of the first black men to own his own record label. By owning his own label, Barry had more control over his music. He could create the songs he wanted without someone else telling him what to do. This was a big deal and showed that he was not just a great artist but also a savvy businessman. These same companies that were complaining about going out of business due to piracy were the ones making blank tapes. Now, here's where it gets juicy. Barry White wasn't the only one doing big things in music. There was also Berry Gordy, who started Motown Records. Motown was home to huge stars like Stevie Wonder and Diana Ross. While Berry Gordy was famous for discovering and creating stars, Barry White was known for his distinctive voice and style. The kicker is that both men changed the music world, but in different ways. Barry White ensured his music stayed true to his vision by owning his label. Berry Gordy, on the other hand, was great at spotting talent and turning it into a star through his label, Motown. Both made a significant impact on music, but Barry White's approach to owning his label gave him a unique place in music history. So, why did Barry White decide to leave these big record companies? During an interview, Barry White was asked how, as a black man with a black-owned company, he managed to survive when many other companies were collapsing due to piracy. Barry began by saying that he wasn't exempt from the issues of piracy and smuggling. Here's the kicker: he believed greed was the root cause. When people get greedy, it always backfires.
The same companies crying about going bankrupt were the ones making blank tapes that allowed people to record music without paying. Today, technology makes it easy to record music for free. I'm not exempt from that nightmare of piracy and smuggling, Barry said. He believed it was a shame that the industry created this problem for itself. He couldn't blame someone who couldn't afford to record a song when the industry put the tools in their hands by selling them blank tapes. So, how does Barry survive? He keeps keeping his records. He believes some higher power watches out for him when man becomes disenchanted with just making a living and turns to greed every time. But here's where it gets interesting. Barry talks about the big issue of artists making a living in this industry. He's been to many classes where they try to come up with ways to stop people from recording music illegally. Greed, he says, is like poison. Once you take a bite, it starts consuming you. The industry was making a lot of money and growing fast, but greed led to its downfall. The same thing happened to disco music. It started as a work of art, but when everyone saw quick money in it, it was ruined.
Enter Luther Vandross, another big name in music. He started his career modestly, growing up in New York City. Luther loved music from a young age. He was always singing, whether it was at school, at home, or with his friends on the street. People around him could see that he had a special talent, and he dreamed of making it big one day.
Luther's big break came in the 1970s, when he started working as a backup singer for well-known artists like David Bowie, Chaka Khan, and Diana Ross. Working with these big names gave him valuable experience and helped him get noticed in the music industry. But it was just the beginning. Singing backup wasn't enough. Luther wanted to be the star.
In 1981, Luther made a life-changing decision. He signed a contract with Clive Davis, a big shot in the music industry who had just started a new record label called J Records. Rumor has it that Davis saw something truly special in Luther, and he was right. With Davis's help, Luther was ready to step into the spotlight.
Now, let's talk about the music industry at that time. The 1980s were a golden era for soul and R&B music. People were hungry for smooth voices and heartfelt lyrics, and Luther had both. Clive Davis didn't just dip his toes into the music scene, he dove right in and made waves. Back in the day, he discovered talents like Whitney Houston and Alicia Keys. Imagine finding someone who could belt out songs that make you feel all sorts of emotions. That's what Clive Davis did.
He knew how to spot a star in the making. Clive Davis, the renowned music executive, was responsible for launching some of the biggest names in the industry, including Barry Manilow, Patti Smith, Billy Joel, Earth, Wind and Fire. The list goes on. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows with Clive Davis. Some people say he has a knack for drama. Allegedly, he's had his fair share of conflicts with artists over creative differences. Imagine you're an artist with an idea for a song, but Clive Davis says, "Nah, let's do it my way." Some artists didn't like that at all. They felt like their artistic freedom was being stifled. Despite the gossip, Clive Davis has had a massive impact on how music is made and heard. He's not just a record guy, he's a deal maker too. He knows how to make those big money moves that keep the music business thriving. When Clive Davis says, "Let's make a hit," people listen. But here's the kicker: Barry White tried to warn Luther about Clive Davis. Rumor has it Barry knew something was off with Clive. Barry had seen how these powerful record executives worked and how they could take advantage of artists. He tried to tell Luther to be careful and watch out for Clive's intentions. But Luther didn't listen. He was excited about the opportunity and trusted Clive's reputation. Fame is a funny thing. Once you take a bite of it, it turns on you and starts consuming you. Clive Davis gets very close with his artists. Some say he's like a mentor, guiding them through the crazy world of fame and fortune. But others whisper about his preferences for his male artists.